Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
For your own sake, it's better not to ask, Patricia reprimanded. She did not have answers to some of the questions he had posed, and even if she did not reserve the right to tell him. The less he knew, the safer he would be. Ella's face blanched once he had heard Patricia's reply. Don't you trust me? You won't be of much help if you knew, and on top of that, it might put you in even more danger, Patricia admitted frankly, as she was not withholding information from him out of distrust. In fact, she knew who Ella truly was, and she trusted him because Nicole trusted him. However, Ella was still unwilling to back down. He did not understand what was going on, and the more he thought about it, the more worried he was. Now that he had the opportunity to gain some clarity on the issue, he wanted to seize it. Patricia's eyes darkened as if she had read Ella's thoughts. If you don't have any other questions, you may stay and have lunch on your own. She did not wish to have a meal with him while he interrogated her with questions that she herself did not have the answers to. Upon coming to the realization that Patricia was about to leave, Ella quickly decided to drop it. Okay, I won't ask any further. Let's eat, Patricia said coldly, and lowered her head to begin her meal. As for Ella, he was relieved to know that she would not leave, and that was when he started eating as well. During the meal, Ella would look at Patricia every now and again, which caused her to furrow her brows. Can I help you? Yeah. Ella panicked as he averted his gaze. If you have something to say, just say it. But make sure that it's something I won't mind hearing, Patricia warned. Upon hearing that, Ella immediately assured her, don't worry. It has absolutely nothing to do with the anonymous letter. Okay, Patricia's tone softened, and she signaled Ella to proceed with whatever he was about to ask. Ella hesitated for a few seconds, and after taking a deep breath, he firmly asked, Do you have a boyfriend? Patricia paused as she looked at Ella, her eyes wide in surprise. It was as if time had stopped for her. For Ella to ask her a question like that was something she had not seen coming. What the heck is wrong with him? Why does he want to know about this? You're not saying anything. Is it because you have a boyfriend, or is it inappropriate for me to ask? Ella queried, looking disappointed and nervous at the same time. After looking away, Patricia calmly answered, That's none of your business. Why not? Ella became even more anxious. If you don't have a boyfriend, I would like to be yours. But if you do, I promise I won't get in the way. Patricia was at a loss for words when she saw how sincere Ella was. For the first time, she was rendered speechless. She did not expect Ella to confess his feelings to her out of the blue, and on top of that, they had just met. Why would he say something like that? No matter how long we know each other, there's no way our relationship could progress into something like that. It's just out of the question, she thought. I'm done eating. Patricia placed her cutleries down. Hey, don't go. Ella ran after her, his heart racing. Don't follow me, and please don't concern yourself with my affairs, Patricia said coldly, keeping her distance. Ella hurried a few steps forward and stood in front of Patricia, blocking her. There was an earnest look on his face as he explained, I'm not joking, Patricia. I'm dead serious about what I just said. That has nothing to do with me, Patricia retorted. She had no intention of listening to what he wanted to say. She just wanted to leave. She did not know why, but her heart was stirring in confusion. Perhaps my actions today were too sudden, but this is the most genuine I've ever been with anyone. You can reject me, but I won't give in so easily, Ella declared resolutely. What he felt for her, he had never felt with any other woman before. Indeed, Patricia was the only one who had made him feel this way before. He immediately knew she was unique the first time he saw her. He was set on not giving up after he had determined that his feelings for her were true. Since she did not have a boyfriend, he would make full use of his sincerity to win her over and make her accept him. Patricia simply looked at him in return, tongue-tied. She was truly at a loss on what to say, so she told him, We're not compatible. If you haven't tried, you'll never know. We haven't spent time together, so how sure are you that we're not compatible? As long as you don't already have a boyfriend, I won't give up, Ella insisted. Patricia was helpless. She and Ella were from completely different worlds, and that one particular mission was the only reason for their interaction. Once it ended, they would have little to no contact. Patricia sighed, not wanting to explain anything to him. Perhaps they would experience a phase of radio silence once her task to protect him was over. And then, Ella would come to understand what the word, incompatible, meant. As Patricia turned to walk away, she suddenly noticed a flash of light. Familiar with what the color of the light signified, she instinctively shoved Ella aside. Ugh. She frowned as she felt a surge of pain in her arm. In a swift motion, she blocked the hit and shielded Ella by putting herself before him. Everything had happened in an instant, leaving Ella in a daze and oblivious to what just transpired. All he knew was that Patricia had pushed him, and that something had flashed before his eyes. What happened? You're a hotshot who has never missed, but you seem to have encountered a formidable opponent this time. Shut up. Let's see whose hands that kid falls into later. Not yours, that's for sure. A group of men in black suits appeared, bickering among themselves as they strode over to the duo. Patricia, what's going on? Ella stepped out from behind her, finally realizing that something was amiss. Instantly, Patricia pulled him back and warned him, "Stand behind me and don't move." The men in black surrounded the duo, after which their leader warned, "This woman is no ordinary pushover. Be careful, everyone. We didn't expect this pretty boy to have someone so capable by his side. Perhaps the information we've been given is unreliable." Patricia, should we call for help? Ella anxiously suggested, as he dared not act against Patricia's words. Frowning, Patricia whispered, "Yeah, let's do it." She could probably handle the situation if she was alone, but as of now, she had the double duty of protecting Ella, who knew nothing about combat and self-defense. Besides, the fact that their target was Ella only served to dampen her confidence in her abilities. She believed that Nicole would be in hot soup if Ella ended up being captured by these men. Soon after, Patricia made a decision. Now was not the time to be a hero, for there was no room for even the tiniest of mistakes. The only thing she could do was to stall and buy them both some time until their backup arrived. As soon as Ella had whipped his phone out, the men immediately realized what he was up to, and lunged at them. Ella had figured that it would be extremely difficult for Patricia to deal with those men while ensuring his safety. He wanted to help, but he knew full well what his shortcomings were. All he could do was grit his teeth, call for backup, and silently pray for help to arrive soon. After he had hung up, he stared at Patricia, who was struggling to hold on. He was trembling as he kept his eyes fixed on her. Suddenly, he caught a fleeting glimpse of a knife hurtling toward Patricia, and in a flash, he lunged toward the attacker who was holding it, and knocked it out of his hand. Then, another one of the men grabbed Ella's arm, prompting Patricia to give him a swift roundhouse kick before pulling Ella back to her side. Patricia could instantly feel the pressure off her chest when Ella was with her. Although Ella knew next to nothing about combat, his reaction times were quick. If anything, the two went on to coordinate their defenses and hold their own without allowing their assailants to take advantage of their positioning. "Captain." Patricia let out a sigh of relief when she heard a familiar voice. Soon, two figures joined the fight, thus turning the tide against the men. The advantage even gave Patricia and Ella the opportunity to retreat from the scene. "Are you okay?" Ella asked, his eyes brimming with concern. Patricia shook her head without uttering a word, her gaze fixed on the men in black as her brows furrowed. Once the assailants noticed that the tables had turned against them, they whistled, tossed a few gas grenades on the ground, and fled as the wall of fog enveloped their surroundings. They were gone long before the smoke dissipated. With their attackers clean out of the scene, Ella's bodyguards approached the duo. "Captain, how are you holding up?" "I'm fine. Let's talk back at the office." Then, they made their way to Bay Corp. They were fortunate that the restaurant they had chosen to dine in was close to Bay Corp, making their immediate rescue possible. Had that not been the case, things would have taken a turn for the worst. Back at Bay Corp, Patricia instructed those two. From now on, wherever he goes, you must stick to him like glue. In addition, they had made the mistake of letting their guard down. She had judged that the presence of the two men was unnecessary since they were not straying too far from the company building to have lunch. And unfortunately, the opponents had taken advantage of their blunder. Her gaze darkened as she thought about the assailants. Then, she turned around, wanting to report back to Nicole back in Riddle Corporation. "Captain, treat your injuries before you return," one of Ella's guards said. "Where does it hurt?" Ella immediately panicked as he wondered why he had not noticed it sooner. "I'm fine," Patricia replied. She did not wish to take care of her wound here. All she wanted to do was to return to the headquarters and report back to Nicole as soon as possible. Seeing that she was adamant about leaving, Ella pulled her back into the office, turned to his secretary, and ordered, "Bring the first aid kit." Once she had brought the box to Ella, he dismissed her. "Give it to me." "You may leave," Ella said after grabbing the first aid kit. "Of course." The secretary left the room. "Come on. It's just a minor injury. Let's not make a big deal of this," Patricia stated out of unease as she and Ella were the only ones left in his office. However, Ella's gaze remained fixed on Patricia's arm. "When did you get hurt? Why didn't she tell me? I wouldn't have known if nobody had mentioned it. And when was she injured? I have been by her side, but why didn't I notice it?" he wondered. Patricia saw that he was staring at her wrist, so she pulled her sleeve down and said, "Give me the first aid kit. I'll handle it myself." Patricia figured that Ella would not allow her to leave with her injuries unattended. Little did she expect that there was a more caring masculine side to him, as he usually came off as a young and immature son from a wealthy family. "Leave it to me." Ella took a deep breath, deciding to treat her wound. Then, he reached out, grabbed her sleeve, and pulled it back. To his horror, he heard the sound of fabric being ripped apart at the very next second. As it turned out, he had pulled her sleeve back a little too hard, and ended up tearing a large hole which almost reached her shoulder. "Would you believe me if I say it was unintentional?" Ella asked awkwardly. "I wasn't even using much strength. How did I end up tearing her sleeve?" Ella wondered. Patricia's lips twitched, after which she forced herself to say, "It's fine." Then, she opened the first aid kit and brought the disinfectant and ointment out. Then, Ella snapped out of it and went on to aid Patricia with her wounds, being exceedingly gentle with her while he was at it. It was inconvenient for Patricia to do it herself as she only had one good arm, so she resigned herself to Ella's care. However, she also found his actions hilarious. Still, she had to bite her tongue and endure it due to Ella's confession earlier. She did not want to give Ella any false hope or lead him on, as she believed that they would not interact in the future anymore once this mission was over. After treating the wound, Ella advised Patricia, "Be careful when you've gotten home. Don't let the wound get wet, remember to change the bandages, and get plenty of rest." Patricia listened to his barrage of advice, and after he was done, she defeatedly said, "Thank you for the advice. I can take care of myself." Having been through much worse over the years, a minor injury like the one she had just sustained did not faze her. "Wait a minute," Ella called out to her again when he saw that she was leaving. Puzzled, Patricia turned around and asked, "Is there anything else?" "Put this on." Ella handed his coat to Patricia. After all, her ripped sleeve would just attract too much unwarranted attention. "Thank you, I'll return it another day," she said. Patricia did not decline the gesture this time, as wearing Ella's coat seemed better than walking around with her arms and shoulders exposed. Then she left, unaware that wearing Ella's jacket would lead her to more unwanted scrutiny and conjectures from others. With a frown on his face, Ella watched as Patricia left his office. How did she get injured? His face blanched the instant he recalled the events that had transpired after they had left the restaurant. As it turned out, he had heard her groaning in pain when she was fighting their assailants off, a detail which he had ignored. Feeling remorseful, Ella proceeded to beat himself up. He hated himself for being useless and inattentive. Patricia had gotten hurt trying to save him, which he had failed to notice. At that moment, he felt that he was nothing but a schmuck. Meanwhile, Patricia went straight up to Nicole's office once she had arrived at the headquarters of Riddle Corporation. "What's this?" Nicole looked at Patricia, who was draped in a man's jacket. "Ms. Riddle?" Ella was almost captured. Patricia started, and went on to recount the incident in detail to Nicole. She had hurried back just so that she could report this to Nicole. "So you got injured because of this? How are you now?" Nicole turned to look at Patricia's injured arm. "I've already taken care of it. It's nothing," Patricia replied. "You should get some rest before going home," Nicole advised. Patricia shook her head. "It's all right, Ms. Riddle. I'm really fine. Oh, and there's one more thing, but I'm not certain if it's true." "What is it?" Nicole frowned upon noticing how serious Patricia had become. "I don't think those people are from the capital, and their techniques look as though they don't belong to a single school. It feels familiar, but I can't confirm," Patricia explained with uncertainty. She had carefully observed their moves, but she could not shake the strange, inexplicable feeling that there was more to it. "So you mean by investigating their techniques, we might learn about their identity?" Nicole guessed. Remorsefully, Patricia replied, "That's what I was trying to say, but unfortunately, I didn't manage to discover anything." She could sense that there was something fishy about the assailants, but as of now, she could not confirm their identities. "It's okay. We can still trace them as long as we have some clues to work with." Nicole comforted Patricia. Patricia had provided her with some very useful information. In fact, it was an essential discovery. The next step would be to determine the direction of the investigation. "I'll do it," Patricia said decisively. However, Nicole shook her head. "There's no rush. Just go home and get some rest. We'll decide after meeting up with Max and Charlie." "Well, I'll take a nap in the office," Patricia replied. She could rendezvous with Max and Charlie right after work if she stayed here. If she went home right now, she might have to wait until the next day, and she hardly had the patience for that. Nicole shook her head as she watched Patricia leave. She then called her secretary to make the necessary arrangements. After ending the call, she leaned back against her chair with a darkened gaze. Based on Patricia's analysis, I wonder where those men from. It was almost the end of the workday when Nicole left Riddle Corporation and headed to Johnston Group with Patricia. "You're early," Jared remarked, surprised to see her. Patricia made a discovery. Nicole went straight to the point as soon as she entered his office. "Have Max and Charlie come over." Jared called them over, and Patricia went on to explain the encounter with her assailants earlier. So they really made a move. Charlie's eyes darkened. Then Max frowned and asked, "Are you sure that's how they fought?" "Yes. I had already pulled Ella out of the danger zone at that time, so I saw it very clearly," Patricia confirmed. "If that's the case, I know about an organization." Max continued through gritted teeth. "Do any of you remember the Eastern Falcon?" "Do you mean?" Patricia's eyes widened in shock. "But they haven't shown any signs of activity for a long time now." Max nodded. "That's what I find strange too. According to Patricia's description of their combat techniques, there's only one particular group with a style that resembles theirs, and that's the Eastern Falcon." However, as Patricia had stated, the Eastern Falcon had been inactive for many years. Why haven't they been active? Nicole asked in confusion, as she had not heard of this organization before. It said that a mission failure had caused major issues within their organization, forcing them to retreat and lick their wounds, Patricia explained. "Is it possible that their recovery period is almost over?" Nicole asked. If that was the case, the organization should have recovered to full strength by now. Still, both Patricia and Max were shocked upon learning that they could very well be the ones responsible for the encounter earlier. The problem is, They've declared that they would never set foot in the world of mercenary syndicates ever again. They've also retreated to a place where no one would find them. That's how they managed to recover from the fallout of their last mission. Max continued. That's why I find it strange that they've appeared. Even if they're tired of remaining in the shadows, they wouldn't go after Nicole unless they have a good reason to, Max finished. Nicole understood the general idea and looked at Jared, who gave her a light nod, confirming that Max and Patricia were indeed telling the truth. If that's the case, there's only one possibility. There must be a solid reason for them to emerge, regardless of whether it's internal or external, Nicole said as an icy glint crossed her eyes. The only question that remained was, why had they decided to target her, of all people? I understand. I'll get someone to investigate, Patricia immediately responded. Nicole's allies could first investigate their internal ongoings, and if the reason for their re-emergence was not tied to issues within the organization, then it would not be a stretch to conclude that they were motivated by external factors. Though it seemed as though there could be countless possibilities, investigating the Eastern Falcon would not be a difficult task at all. Having said that, Patricia turned around and began walking away. Although her injury was not severe, she still wanted to take a good rest and wake up early the next day. She needed to be extra vigilant and alert during work tomorrow. As she was about to leave, Ella reached out and grabbed her. However, he had made the mistake of seizing her by the arm which had been injured, causing Patricia to grimace and cry out, "Ow!" She winced as her bad arm was in tremendous pain, and pulled away from Ella's grasp. Realizing that he had caused her pain, he immediately released her with a remorseful look on his face. "Sorry for hurting you. Are you okay? Should we go to the hospital?" "Never mind," Patricia said, dumbfounded and speechless. Going to the hospital would be totally unnecessary. It was just a brief moment of pain, not something severe enough to warrant a visit to the ward. "I'll take you home." Ella pulled her into his car. He was still worried sick for her, as she had refused a trip to the hospital. Patricia sighed, feeling helpless and defeated. "No, I'm fine, really. I can go home by myself." "Well, you're going home anyway. What's the harm in letting me take you?" Ella insisted and turned to look at the driver. "Take us to Flora Apartments." "How do you know where I live?" Patricia asked with a frown. "I asked." Ella pointed to the two men she had assigned to protect him. The two bodyguards lowered their heads at once, their faces guilt-ridden. "Did we do something wrong?" Patricia then took a deep breath and warned the two, "Don't tell any outsiders my address in the future." "Yes, Patricia," they stammered. "How are we supposed to know that Ella is an outsider?" However, Ella did not seem to know what Patricia meant, and proceeded to chime in. "Yeah, don't tell any outsiders next time. Besides, he already knew her address, so it was better if others did not." Patricia could only roll her eyes at that point. She just could not be bothered to pay attention to Ella anymore, and so, she simply closed her eyes and took a power nap. After a while, the car pulled up in front of Flora Apartments. "I've arrived. You can go back home." Patricia got out of the car. When she saw that Ella wanted to follow her out, she slammed the door, locking him inside. Ella rubbed his forehead, having narrowly missed being hit. "Hey, let me take you upstairs." "No," Patricia sternly declined, before spinning around and hurrying back to her apartment. Ella issued a sigh of helplessness as he watched her recede from view. He was just worried about her, but as things stood, it seemed that Patricia wanted him off her back. Meanwhile, Nicole and Jared were already on their way to the Riddle residence. "What do you think is the reason for the Eastern Falcon's re-emergence?" Nicole asked Jared. She was not familiar with any organization by the name of Eastern Falcon, so she could not guess what their motives were. It's been so many years, so there shouldn't be any problems within the organization. If it's not due to the changes in their surroundings, we can rule out internal factors as the cause of their reappearance. That said, I believe they are motivated by external forces, Jared said, his voice heavy and low. External. Nicole frowned slightly. What could that be? Benefits of some sort. Is it possible that they have been given enough incentive to come out of hiding? She wondered. There might be lucrative rewards offered to them, Jared said calmly, though his words conveyed a sense of nervousness and pressure. Yeah, that's the only reason that makes sense to me right now. Nicole agreed after pondering over it for a moment. They could only wait for the results of Charlie's investigation, which would hopefully be over soon. Those thugs exposed themselves today, but they didn't manage to complete the mission, so they'll probably lay low for a few days, Nicole inferred. It was evident that the group were well trained and coordinated. They would never act rashly and recklessly, as everything was well planned from the very beginning. Moreover, they had probably lurked around Ella for a while, waiting for the right moment to strike. However, precautions were necessary, and they still had to be on guard for the foreseeable future. Jared gently held Nicole's hand and looked at her with a tender and comforting gaze. In return, she smiled as a sense of happiness rippled from within her heart. Upon arriving at the Riddle residence, they saw that Tia had also just brought Nolan and Lana home. Mommy. Daddy. Hello, Mr. Johnston and Nicole, Tia greeted. The kids ran up to Nicole and Jared, with Tia following them from behind. Nicole patted their heads affectionately as she smiled. You're back. Mommy, tomorrow is the parent-child event. Will you and Daddy be there? Lana tilted her head and asked with a hint of anticipation in her voice. Of course we'll be there. Nicole smiled and promised. Indeed, she could not bear the idea of disappointing her two little cuties. Yay! Lana cheered and waved her little hands in excitement. Nicole held Nolan and Lana's hands with a smile and brought them into the house. Let's go inside and talk. Then, they made their way to the living room, where Daniel, Gloria, and Stanley were all present. Hi, Grandpa, Grandma, and Uncle Stanley, Nolan and Lana politely greeted. Oh, my little darlings are back. Gloria beamed and beckoned them to come to her. Quick, come to Grandma. Everyone present sat down on the couch and gathered around for a chat. Nicole, if there's nothing, I'll be heading back home, Tia whispered to Nicole when she saw everyone happily chatting away. Nicole glanced at her, hesitated for a moment, and nodded in agreement. Sure, go back and get some rest. Okay. Tia nodded and left. Stanley noticed Tia leaving and involuntarily looked in her general direction. Though Tia's figure had already disappeared through the door, Stanley's gaze was still locked on it, as if he was stuck in a daydream. Stanley. Hearing someone calling him, he snapped out of his stupor and asked, What's wrong? We are the ones who should be asking you what's wrong. Why were you staring at the door in a daze? We called out to you several times. Gloria retorted. Why is it that Stanley appears to be acting weirdly? Is he not feeling well? She wondered. Oh, it's nothing. Stanley came up with an explanation. I just thought of some work-related matters. Upon hearing this, Gloria felt reassured and breathed a sigh of relief. I see. Nicole, however, was eyeing Stanley with arched brows. She had seen it very clearly. Stanley was looking at Tia just now. Suddenly, Stanley's phone rang. A frown crossed his face the instant he saw who the caller was. After refusing to answer the call, Stanley sent Cherry a text message instead. What's the matter? I've got an emergency. Can you come out for a bit? What's going on? It seems that my family has sensed something, and they're insisting on seeing you. Can you help me through this? Why don't you explain to your family yourself? Stanley was not in a good mood, and the last thing he wanted to do right now was go out there and help her out. Please, I'm begging you. There's something wrong with my visa application process. It'll take about 2 weeks for me to sort it out. If they find out, all my previous efforts will be in vain. Cherry went on to send a few pleading emojis to Stanley, hoping he would agree to help her through this. Stanley, what are you doing? Gloria asked when she saw Stanley texting someone with his head lowered. Why is Stanley so absent-minded? First, He was busy daydreaming and now he's looking at his phone. Is something bothering him? Gloria wondered. Mom, I need to go out for a while. There's something I need to take care of, Stanley said as he got up. He could only help Cherry out as he had promised to do so from the very beginning. Therefore, he could not go back on his word. What's going on with him? Daniel asked, puzzled by his son's behavior as well. Who knows? He's acting strange, that's for sure. Gloria sighed in defeat. Dad, Mom. Stanley can handle his own issues, Nicole comforted them, not wanting them to worry about him. She believed that Stanley must have felt something very different, which in turn made him uneasy. All she could do now was hope that he could figure his feelings out. Only then would things return to normal. After Stanley had left, he immediately called Cherry. Hey, where are you? Okay, I'm coming over now, he said before hanging up. As he turned around, he saw Tia, who seemed to have just emerged from the direction of the garage. Tia! Stanley exclaimed in surprise. At the same time, he was also feeling a little guilty. My handbag is in the car. I just went to get it. I'm going back now, Tia spluttered, before walking past Stanley and hurrying to the backyard as if she was trying to flee from him. Stanley watched as she hurried off, and reached his hand out to stop her. However, he was far behind now, so he dropped his arm and watched as Tia's figure vanished from sight. When Tia returned to Mrs. Wallace Sr.'s quarters at the back, she began her cleaning routine absent-mindedly, not realizing that she was holding a towel instead of a rag. Tia, what are you doing? Mrs. Wallace Sr. asked, having noticed the strangeness of her actions. Oh, just wiping this down. It's a bit dirty, Tia said, her wiping motions becoming even more vigorous. But that's a towel, Mrs. Wallace Sr. remarked. Tia paused for a moment, and that was when she realized that she was holding a towel. There, she stood frozen, embarrassed and at a loss. Come over and take a break for a while. Talk to Grandma. Mrs. Wallace Sr. beckoned. Tia instantly teared up while she gritted her teeth to fight the tears back in front of Mrs. Wallace Sr. Then, she slowly walked up to Mrs. Wallace Sr. and sat down. At that moment, she began talking to Mrs. Wallace Sr. about her days in the countryside. Pouring her feelings out like that made her feel better, as many pleasant memories from the past resurfaced. During the next day, Nicole heard frantic knocking and shouting at the door, even though it was still early and she had barely woken up. Daddy! Mommy! Wake up! Let's join the event, Nolan and Lana shouted from outside the room. Frowning, Nicole opened her crusted eyes and sat up, slowly and groggily. Okay, you can go down first. We'll be waiting for you in the living room then. The knocking stopped, and rapid footfalls took their place, growing softer with each passing second. Nicole rubbed her temples when she was certain that her kids were gone. Then she got out of bed, with Jared following suit. After freshening up, the two went downstairs, where they saw Nolan and Lana sitting quietly on the couch in the living room. But the second they saw their parents, they jumped up and yelled, Daddy! Mommy! Come on, guys. It's still too early, Nicole said helplessly. There was little point in them rushing to preschool this early. Even if they did, the teachers would likely not be there yet. It's not early. By the time we get there, our classmates will have been there already. Lana argued, feeling rather impatient. Nicole smiled and patted Lana's head gently. It's really too early. Let's have breakfast first. And then, we'll go to school, okay? Okay, Nolan and Lana agreed, and reached for the remote to turn the TV on. They wanted to watch something for a while to pass the time. At first, there was some news about current political affairs, but as the children could not understand anything about the subject, they switched to the entertainment channel. All of a sudden, Stanley's figure appeared on the screen, and right before their eyes. It's Uncle Stanley! The two kids shouted in surprise as they stared at the screen. The voice of the anchor then emanated from the TV. Yesterday, Stanley Riddle, the third son of Daniel Riddle, met his future father-in-law at a hotel. It seems that more good news is just around the corner. Mommy, What's going on? Nolan and Lana asked in confusion. While they understood a little of what was going on, they could grasp the full gravity of what they just heard. Is Uncle Stanley getting married? But why is nothing happening at home? Nicole was also surprised. She did not know that Stanley had gone out last night to discuss marriage plans. Is he not planning to discuss it with the family first? Were they talking about Stanley? Gloria and Daniel approached them, having overheard the news. Mom, well, let Stanley explain it to you, Nicole said. She was feeling uneasy, and was not in the least aware of what was going on either. An explanation? What are you talking about? Stanley asked. He too had overheard Nicole, and was just as confused as the rest of them were. Uncle Stanley, are you getting married? Nolan and Lana asked in unison. No, Stanley replied, and shot them a look of bewilderment. Why are the children asking me about this? In response, Lana pointed at the TV and said, but the news just said that you and Cherry met your future father-in-law yesterday. The news? Stanley was shocked, his mouth wide and hanging. So, are they saying that the paparazzi took pictures when I went over to help Cherry out yesterday? And it's all over the news now. Gosh. Yes, it was just on TV. Nolan and Lana nodded vigorously, indicating that they were not lying. Stanley, you were pretty absent-minded throughout the evening last night. Was it because of this? Gloria asked resentfully. You didn't tell us a thing. Is it because you were afraid that we wouldn't give you our blessings? No, Stanley said, wanting to clear the air. Well, why didn't you tell us then? Gloria shot back. I'm not getting married. The situation yesterday was rather peculiar, and I was just there to help, Stanley explained as he furrowed his brows. If he did not clarify things now, the misunderstanding would grow in severity, and eventually spiral out of control. How can you help, especially in situations like these? Gloria widened her eyes in astonishment. She thought that parents were usually the ones who would step in and help out in issues like these. No, you're mistaken. Actually, Cherry and I are not what you think we are. Stanley continued, trying to explain everything to his family. Gloria, on the other hand, was even more taken aback by his ham-fisted attempt at clearing the air. You said she was your girlfriend in front of everyone at the dinner table. What kind of relationship do you both have if it isn't what we think it is? The idea that there was more than one sort of girlfriend was ludicrous, unthinkable, and unheard of to Gloria. And just like that, Stanley was rendered powerless and speechless as though a gut punch had winded him. All he could do was stand there, not knowing what to say or how best to explain his predicament to his family. If he had known the situation would spiral to what it had become, he would have not accepted Cherry's proposal. As of now, it was already difficult enough to state his case and explain himself to his family.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.